My name's Amanda. I'm with Thanx as a loyalty and success manager to make sure that our customers can use loyalty as a business outcome and achieve some of the strategic goals that they look to set out to do each day. I'm here with Charnel.
Yes, I am Charnel Landry. I work at Small Sliders. We serve up craveable sliders out of a 750 square foot modular container. I am the Senior Director of Digital Enablement, where it essentially intersects technology, digital, and data.
When I think of Small Sliders, it's kind of synonymous with growth right now. You guys are in a major expansion phase. Tell me a little bit more about what that means for your role and what you guys are doing at Smalls through this phase.
Yes, we are in a high growth process right now. We are scaling across multiple markets, and we are super focused, right, on our menu, not offering tons of LTOs, not at the moment anyway. So we always say we like to reserve the right to change our mind. And we have a very strong brand identity. So for us, it's very important that we have a consistent guest experience because of that focused menu and that high rapid growth, right? And so in my role, intersecting at the digital data and tech kind of realm, it's important that we are always leveraging those three aspects to make sure we're delivering the best experience because we are like rapidly expanding. Markets are different. And so we have to leverage data to be able to understand what our markets need, expect from us as a slider concept, and show up in that way.
That is a lot to handle when you are working with so many different stakeholders. When we talk about that growth and how we kind of make that consistent, set the scene for me. What are some of those challenges you guys face in that rapid expansion mode and providing that consistency that you just mentioned?
Well, one of the things that I think is very unique to us, and it creates a little bit of a challenge, but a very fun challenge, is our menu. I mean, we don't have a lot to offer, and guests always expect more and different. They expect variation. But the thing that sets us apart, the challenge is that, but the thing that makes it so sweet for us is we're finding that more guests are walking up or driving up, or we call it sliding through, expecting not to make a decision. And so because our menu is so focused, because our brand has such a strong identity and the expectations are so basic, it creates this experience that's pretty easy for us to meet, right? They know they're coming in for burgers. They don't have a ton of options. They know that they're coming in for fries or our well-known milkshakes or queso, right? So they come in knowing exactly what they want. The only decision they have to make is account. Right. And so when we think about the challenge of we don't have a lot to offer, although in this world people expect variation, I think it's refreshing for our guests when they come experience Smalls that they don't have that variation, that we've already essentially made the decision for them. They just need to give us one number. How many?
It's amazing because one of the things that we lose sight of in such a busy world is how much mental capacity we have left at the end of the day to do something as simple as order food, right?
Yes.
Smalls alleviates that for our customers. And one of the things that you guys have talked about and done a lot with is first-party digital ordering to take that a step further, make it more seamless for your customers. How much of your business is run through first-party digital?
I mean, for us, it's a measurable, always changing number, right? We are an emerging concept. We are new. Our metrics around like that are, we talked about vanity metrics, or we've been talking about vanity metrics across the industry lately, right? And so we have never really put our foot on the accelerator around sales as an emerging concept, or where the channel of the sales come from. Like for us, it's about getting the customer there. We want them to experience the brand, whether it's digital or whether it's at can. So in terms of the percentage, it varies, right? But we know that we need to be digital because guests expect us to be digital. We need to be where they are. And so we really lean into being where our guests expect us to be, whether that's digital, whether that's at can. Now, I will say this. Our at can experience, I'm digital enablement, right? So I want you to have a digital experience. I want that to be a seamless, frictionless experience. But I want you to come to the can because the can is such an amazingly unique opportunity for you to interact with. We call them team members, but we call them squad members.
I love
They're
that.
Dressed in the coolest attire. They have the most upbeat, dopest personalities. And so I can't portray that across the digital channel or funnel, right? You have to come and experience it and fall in love with the people and see the attire that they're wearing. And so when we think about that, we want people we want to be where they want us to be. We want to be where they are. We want to meet their need, meet them where they are. And so when we think about digital, we think about it through the lens of another funnel, for them to be able to find us, and not necessarily a percentage. But I will expect us to lean into digital over the next year or so, a little bit more heavily, and then that metric I'll be able to share with you at that time.
Yeah, I can't wait. And one of the things that you're focusing on to increase that first party digital right now is onboarding series.
Yeah.
You talked about the vibe being in the can. It's almost like being in a little toy. I know you've mentioned before.
Like a Lego.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you can express that through marketing? I know you just did a new onboarding series. Tell me a little bit more about how you welcome that guest experience from a digital lens into the actual four walls.
Yeah. So we've launched what some may say is kind of an intense onboarding workflow or journey. And so essentially, instead of 3, it's 5 touch points with our guests as they're starting to activate and learn our brand. That was important for us because we noticed, where, if you get to the third purchase, there is some form of habit established, but we also noticed as we looked at the micro signals in the data that it's still a very vulnerable habit. And so it was important for us to try to get them to 5th purchase because we noticed at 5th purchase, it becomes more solid, right? And so I don't care, again, if it's a 5th purchase, we count every purchase as a purchase,
right?
Digital
that
or
transaction.
Right, digital or otherwise, or at the can. And so our every opportunity for us to market and communicate with our guests, we're not talking about digital experience. We're saying come experience Smalls. We don't care how experience Smalls, not us through third party, but experience our brand because we control that experience from the time that you order through to the time that we deliver that product into your hand. And so we leaned into this, narrative where we're like, hey, 5 may be like a little too much, but like, well, maybe not. And this is how we can do it. And so we started using 4th and 5th to educate. Remember, we're a new concept. No one, if you don't know us, you don't know us. And so as we enter these new markets and these people experience us, we want to nurture them all the way through. We want to offer them something, not in a way that they think, more of a surprise and delight throughout that process. We want to teach them how to use our products, how to experience it, because again, it's a focused menu. But if I can take my burger and dunk it in queso or take my burger and dunk it in Smalls, you don't natively think to do that. But we tell our brands, our customers all the time, dunk, and now everybody dunks and dips, and we're known as the dunking dipping brand, right?
And it feels like you've really unlocked something cool with the brand when you do that, because you're like, I know the insider hack.
Absolutely.
This is how I should eat my small slider.
Absolutely. And that's happening at that 4th and 5th, and that's when we're finding that our guests are really, really leaning into our brand and staying loyal to us.
That's amazing. There's so much to unpack about that process because you found the benchmark 3 purchases increased in lifetime value. For your brand, 5 is more of a magic number. So you're using that data and then you're ideating on it to actually create a marketing campaign that educates those customers.
Yep.
Getting really tactical, talk to me a little bit about how do you ideate in marketing, and then how do you use your platform capabilities to actually execute that and make it happen for your operators and your guests?
So ideating in marketing is probably the most fun but stressful thing, because it is literally putting everything you think on a whiteboard and deciding by everyone raise their hand which ones we're going to do, right? And we have the flexibility to be able to do that because, again, our guests don't expect anything from us except for a great slider every single time. And so when we surprise them with some campaign or some, reward or something, it's just a pleasant surprise for them. So we can ideate and try and test all day long. Where with Thanx, we're able to kind of bring those ideas to life rather quickly, right? Because it's not a really complicated platform for us to get really lean into. And so we start to put those campaigns out with our to our guests, and we measure again like those micro signals. Okay, how many people? We're not looking at unsubscribe. We are looking at those, but not for the purposes of ideating and how are these things like really sticking to our guests or with our guests. We're looking at how many people actually did something as a result of this. Yes. Our goal is our goal is always transactions, but our goal through the lens of innovation is to figure out who's interested,
yes,
who did something with this, who opened it, who, clicked to the menu, who transacted or who converted, right? And so there are multiple metrics that we're measuring when we're ideating because we're an emerging concept. It also allows us to pivot fast, right? We don't have more of your established brands. Their guests have an expectation. Every time I go to brand A, that's a larger, more established brand, I expect these types of things. It's safe. We don't have to play within those guardrails because we're Smalls, right? We can do things really big, right? And so we do that every time we ideate, every time we put something in market, and every time we measure a signal. We kill some things, we keep some things going. And some things we know that we're going to do it only one time.
Yeah. You recently had a campaign that did really well. You set up a campaign and you got hundreds of purchasers through a single email. What does that look like when you're able to actually execute on that?
Oh gosh, so it feels great. It looks like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work getting everyone on board because we are a franchise concept, right? And so one of the things we've really built with our franchisees is trust. And so they trust us when we say, hey, we're going to do some things, or we don't say that we're going to do them, we just do them. But it's a lot of work when you're trying to figure out how to influence spikes versus looking at historical spikes and trying to define behavior from that.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to predict and influence larger spikes in transactions, larger spikes in engagement. We want to do that by looking at how people are engaging. And so we're always meeting, we're always talking. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when we find that we hit the metrics or targets that we have. And they're not always tangible. They're not always sales. They're not always conversions. They're not always engagement. Sometimes it's, did people even open it? Right? Because we're testing different looks, feels, vibes to figure out who our audience is. And again, do we get different looks in different markets? Do we get different metrics in different markets? Because we are moving into markets that we've never played in, right?
Yes.
And so it's a lot of behind the scenes kind of, things happening that you really don't see on the surface, or because it's not true. Like in theory, it's not just only marketing, right?
Right.
It's technology, it's strategy, it's operations, it's finance, it's analysis, it's a lot of things that go into play when we think about a campaign that we want to push.
Of course. Yes. It sounds like a platform that allows this polished front of house view, just like the vibe that you're giving off in the cans.
Yeah.
And then in a agile platform in the background that's allowing you to kind of test and iterate for what's actually going to stick.
Exactly.
When you're talking to a new marketer or somebody who's growing in the business, justifying the cost of that agile platform and that effort, that's hard to do. What advice would you give to somebody in the business who's looking to make that investment? What should they look for?
I think they first need to understand what they want to accomplish. I do think that oftentimes marketers looking for platforms, they're looking for those platforms to solve a specific problem. And when that platform fails to solve that specific problem, then they don't see the value in the platform. I believe you have to work from reverse. You have to think about what experience do you want to create for your guest, and then find the platform that helps to elevate that experience that you want to create for your guest. I would tell them to know what their goals are. I would tell them to not think about 12 months from today, because most of us are looking at platforms and we're growing with them. Like, we are growing with Thanx. Thanx is growing, we're growing. And we're finding that the features that Thanx have recently released and have released just as, past this last year, have been things that we thought we knew we needed them, we wanted them, but we're like, did we really need them at the moment that we were asking for them, right?
Right.
And so now that we have those features, we can really lean into those, right? So we figured some things out along the way. And so I think for new marketers, it is just that. It is, you think you need something because everyone else is talking about it. And so you start to measure a platform based on what it has or doesn't have. But do you need it? Just because brand A has it and they're talking about it and touting it doesn't necessarily mean that's what you need for success. So you really have to be clued into what your brand needs. You can't look too far in the future. You have to remember we're all growing and scaling, all evolving, right? And find a partner in your business or platform that's going to grow with you and take the journey with you. That would be my advice.
That's wonderful advice. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, Charnel? You have such wisdom in this business. You have been on every level of every stakeholder to grow your business. Is there any, leaving advice here that you would want to share with the rest of the team?
Yeah, I would say, always focus on credibility and trust. Continue to, if you're a franchise organization or if you are a corporate-owned organization, there are people that are trusting you with a very important part with the most important part of the process, and that's their guest, right? And so as marketers, as technologists, as people that are really servicing people, we have to remember to keep the human-centric experience front of mind. Remember that people are human, and remember that they are trusting you. So do what you say you're going to do, provide what you say you're going to provide, and remember that people are what we build our business for.
We are so happy to partner with you and be able to share in that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your authenticity.
No problem.
Love it. Thank you.